The Magicians is a show that I have been waiting to talk about for a really long time, or at least ever since I started watching the show called The Magicians. It's a show that takes on kind of the darker and more adult themes of magic, and it's about these group of people who go to this magical school to learn magic, and all the while there's this really sinister threat that emerges while they're at the school, and towards the end of the season they have to try to band together to try to defeat this sinister threat. Don't worry if you haven't seen season 1 of The Magicians, I'm not going to spoil anything. You guys know me, I don't like spoilers. If you haven't seen season 1, I would suggest you catch up, because season 2 is right around the corner, and that's why I'm talking about season 1 today. Right off the bat, I could tell that this show was going to be different than a lot of the other shows that I've seen. I like shows that are a little bit more adult and a little bit more dark in the way they approach their characters and their story, and this show took that and it just raised the bar a little bit while still maintaining that fun sense of, magic. You know what this show is? This show is kind of like Harry Potter meets Chronicles of Narnia meets Game of Thrones. The thing that makes or breaks any show is the character, so we have to start by talking about the characters in this show. You've got Quentin, who is kind of like the main character of the entire thing. What about Quentin is he's this huge nerd, he loves magic, he's always loved magic, but he's always thought it was like a fake thing like everybody else. He reads these books when he's a kid about this place called Fillory. It's this big magical world, and he's a guy that always really wanted to go there, and everyone around him either called him depressed or crazy. When he finds out that magic is real, it's kind of like it's this thing that lifts the burden off his shoulders but adds a couple new things to it, because magic is not what he expected it to be. I guess the great thing about Quentin is that he's kind of pitched as the main character, but he doesn't really feel like a main character. The most remarkable thing about him is that he's unremarkable. He's decent at magic. He's not like the best at magic. He's a smart guy, but he's not smarter than everybody else around him. And he's brave, but he's not brave to the point of being a badass, and I guess that's what drew me into his character. He's a character that feels ordinary, and immediately I can gravitate towards him and I can latch on and I can relate a little bit. I love seeing his relationships develop over the course of the season with all these people like Alice. Alice is think Hermione except with a bigger rack. Oh, she's more like a grown and sexy version of Matilda. Or you could go, she's kind of like Topanga from Boy Meets World except with magic. Boy, you can tell what I fantasized about a lot as a boy. I really like the way her relationship with Quentin develops, because they're kind of like dual opposites in a way. Quentin is a guy that wants to be the best magician he can be. He wants to be really powerful. He wants all the, everything that comes with being that. But he really is just kind of ordinary. He hasn't gotten to that level yet, and maybe he never will. Alice, meanwhile, is insanely smart and insanely powerful, and she's really like a really good magician. But at the same time, she doesn't really want to be. She kind of just wants to be quiet, and she's really shy, and she wants to just let everybody else go and underestimate her, because everybody would look at her different if they saw what kind of prodigy she was. So immediately you like them both. They do have good chemistry, and really all the characters have good chemistry with each other. Margot and Elliot. Oh, these two. Margot and Elliot are probably, they might be my two favorite characters in the entire show. You know what they are? They're the levity. They're the things that elevate the show and don't just keep it this really dark, depressing thing for the whole show. They're there to remind you that magic can and should be fun at the same time. They bring the fun element to the show. These two have some of the most hilarious lines and dialogue and moments of the entire season. They're the Ryan and Sharpay of Break Bills, which is the magic school that they're all at. If you don't know who Ryan and Sharpay is, it's a High School Musical type of thing. Yes, okay, I remember High School Musical, alright? Don't judge me. Yeah, sure, fine, whatever. And it's kind of funny, because at first I was kind of like, well, they're really snobbish, and they're really like, they're these elitist douchebags who are really funny. Over the course of the season, there is some depth and some attention paid to them and their characters, and they both go through some things that are really traumatic, and they both go through things that challenge them and help them grow as characters. I love the relationship between Quentin and Penny. Penny is this guy who is kind of like a mind reader. All of these magicians have inherent magical abilities that are just their natural ability. Penny's he's a mind reader, so he can kind of pick up on thoughts, but also this is a guy that's a traveler. Over the course of the season, you find out that traveler is somebody who can teleport or transport him or herself anywhere in the world that they choose to. In fact, they can even transport between worlds, so you can kind of guess that ability comes in handy a little bit later. He and Quentin have such an antagonistic relationship. They don't like each other. They basically are at each other's throats the entire season. I love the fact that the show did not have to try to shoehorn them to try to be friends. They're just two completely different people, and they never become friends. They're really just kind of acquaintances and allies. It's like, well, I don't really like you, dude. I think you're whatever, but I'm not gonna let you die. If I have a choice, I'm gonna save your life. I love the way magic itself was depicted in the show. I mean, instead of wands and Harry Potter and swords and stuff like that in Narnia, it's really just a bunch of complex hand movements. It's kind of sort of like I know it's a really bad example, but the point is, I love the way magic was depicted in the show as this big thing and everyone has power. Also, people have to be smart. They can't just magic their way out of every situation. They have to try to do the groundwork. There are a lot of spells and different things that they have to do to make a spell work. I like the fact that they also ask big questions about magic during the season. Like, if you have magic, why shouldn't you be able to fix the world or fix everything? One character I also gotta give a shout out to is Julia. Julia is Quentin's best friend who doesn't get into break bills when he gets accepted into break bills. I like seeing her journey as she's really obsessed with magic. She really has a thing where she tries to find any and every avenue she can get to learn more magic. She runs into this really mean witch or magician. I get them mixed up, sorry. Marina is a really awesome, and it really sets up this really interesting rivalry between her and Julia, and I was really fascinated to see where that goes. Unfortunately, it doesn't really go anywhere, so I can't really talk about it that much, but suffice it to say that Julia had an interesting character arc, and then they started trying to set things up for season 2. The entire season is building towards this big conflict with this beast, who is this mysterious, all-powerful magician. I mean, he's so powerful, he's damn near a god, so the entire season is building up towards this confrontation with the beast. In that, I feel like the biggest problem I have with the season is the execution in terms of how the season ended up. They find out little bits and pieces about the beast and this magical place called Fillory over the course of the season. It's this huge world. It's like Narnia, but it's like no one ever believed in it because it was in a kid's book. Or Quentin always believed in it, and so it's interesting to find out about that world. But I think some of the expository dialogue and some of the way they explain the Fillory stuff was a little bit clunky. Over the course of the season, they bring up information that you just kind of wouldn't remember unless you went back and watched the episode that it came from. So in that sense, it's kind of easy to get lost in translation. There are a couple of times where they're just talking about Fillory out of the blue and I just kind of have to stop and go, wait, what? Also, no spoilers, but there is something that happens towards the very end of this season that just didn't sit right with me. I was just like, why? Why do we need to do that? It's like something happens between these characters that just makes everything awkward, and it just kind of slows the show's momentum down a little bit. It kind of just felt like they were throwing extra drama in the show just for the sake of throwing extra drama in the show. If it happened in the books, I'm sorry, I didn't read the books, I don't know. I'm just talking about the way it was depicted in the show. Something happens where I'm just kind of like, why? Everything was going great, status quo, everything's cool. You don't need to throw extra drama in there just to have characters doing stank eye at each other. Even though the characters are going to end up in the same exact place that we know they're going to end up in, so why go there? Overall, guys, I really love The Magician's first season. I mean, there's a lot to be excited about for season 2. I love the way magic was depicted. I love the big questions that it asked about magic. I love how dark and adult the show was and the tone. I mean, seriously, they go for it all. F-bombs, sex, you name it. It's not for the faint of heart or anyone who doesn't want to watch TVMA type shows. I love the characters, I love the world building, I love the fascinating things that this season left me off with. I'm going to give The Magicians the high end of Man of Steel, Silver Age. You guys like the way I tweaked my rating system? I told you it was coming. So The Magicians, like I said, you should probably try to catch up on that if you haven't already, because season 2 is Wednesday and I can't wait to see it. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And as always, guys, if you like what you see, tell me how you feel and stay tuned to hear more from the Man of Steel. Peace.